Now, with the firing of Kliff Kingsbury yesterday, there are now 5 available head coaching jobs across the league. And I believe we got a couple more to add to the list once the playoffs are said and done. Oh, yes, I do. Now, University of Michigan head coach Jim Harbaugh, he's just like, you know what? I'm going to just put some drama in here and mix it in, because he reportedly interviewed virtually for the Broncos gig on Monday. So we know the Broncos have requests out to Sean Payton, Dan Quinn, D'Amico Ryans, and Raheem Morris, which is interesting. And then you got the Panthers. They're interviewing former Colts head coach Frank Reich, and that would be a cute storyline there. That's a homecoming for him. He was the first quarterback to ever start a game for that organization. But then you have this thing where it's like, oh, you want to root for Reich, but Steve Wilkes, he needs to get that job, in my opinion. And I think Darius Butler will agree with me as he joins us shortly. And I think it would be really nice to see Tepper come out. Tepper, who was missing from action to wrap up the regular season, rip up that interim tag, light a match to that and get rid of it, and let Wilkes, as his players are saying, we think he deserves a shot to lead this team. But we'll see Tepper, not a settler, not someone who wants to settle. If Sean Payton wasn't with the Saints and didn't get traded, that's where I would put Sean Payton, because I think Tepper is the kind of guy who's like, here's the checkbook. How many zeros do you need to be here? And I think that's very important to Sean Payton, and that he could break the bank for him. And if it wasn't an interdivision thing, I could see that being a fit. And it's all really, where is Sean Payton going to go? Is Jim Harbaugh the second most likely candidate to land wherever he wants? Does he want that Broncos job? Lots of questions in the air. And we will keep you updated with anything else that might happen this morning. But we do want to talk about that job in the desert for a second. Let's bring in Matt Hamilton here. Hamilton, who owns a home because he's an idiot. Anybody who's a homeowner, I don't know what anybody's thinking out there. It's really hard work.
It really is. There's constantly something going wrong, and it's a lot of fun.
Like, does anybody out there, anybody heard of a condo, an apartment, having someone to call maintenance people to take care of things for? Like, when you have a home, it is a terrifying venture.
I love how you are figuring this out right now before our eyes. It's fun to watch. You're growing up.
We're trying to find gas lines, and then there's furnaces, and then there's humidifiers at the furnaces that can flood your house. I've learned more about home ownership, and it's just not suitable for me. I need a door person, and I need someone else to be, like, obviously, if you could just absolve me of any accountability, that is the sort of world I want to live in.
That says a lot. I'm not even gonna go there. You said everything there's to say.
I don't think you're surprised about that. All right, but on the matter of accountability, let's venture into this world. Remember the store Venture? Anybody have those in Chicago? There used to be a store called Venture. It was kind of like a Kmart. It was like a black and white stripe. Anyone? Has anyone out there ever heard of the store Venture? Hit me up. Oh, come on. Harlem Irving Plaza in Chicago. That's where they had it, at the hip. Okay. Loopy I am this morning, but we have to talk about this. Kliff Kingsbury, Kyler Murray, Steve Keim, Michael Bidwill conversation. Listen, I was in Rwanda, and I told you, I go to visit the gorillas, and I'm put into a group. I told this story on McAfee. I'm put into a group, and there's 500 people there on any given day, and they put them into groups of which family are you going to see of these silverback gorillas. And I have my shades on, I got my hat on, I'm whatever, and I sit in my group, and there's probably like 8 of us, and I hear Kay, and I go, what? And it's Michael Bidwill. And I go, wait, what? And there's, how do I kismetly get put into this group? And there was so much excitement and hope for the season with this Arizona team, because there's so much talent on this squad, Hamilton. And then this year happens, and now Steve Keim has walked away, a longtime friend of Bidwill. That cannot be easy, that it's got to be hard. And Kliff Kingsbury, who he minted to get paid up the wazoo till 2027. It's unbelievable. And I don't know, I would love to know, what is the moment Bidwill this year was like, you know what, we're going to cut ties with them? What was the one failing moment that existed this year that didn't exist last year? So let's talk about it. Your thoughts on the attractiveness of the job. Is it more attractive because you have a Pro Bowl quarterback under contract for the next 6 years, one that has the talent to do it? Or does it scare you because you have a quarterback who's the 3rd highest paid in the NFL, already has a bunch of question marks about him, and now has a torn ACL he's coming off of?
Yeah, and I think it was clear. I don't know if there was one specific moment, but all the issues that we saw to end last year carried over to this season. There was a clear disconnect between Kliff and Kyler. And, we don't know enough to say whose fault it is or place blame or anything like that. But the organization They clearly backed Kyler Murray last offseason. I know they extended everybody, but once you give that contract out to the quarterback, to the player, that's the one that's hardest to get out of. And then when they removed that independent study clause, that was a clear indication that, hey, we're siding with Kyler Murray. He's our guy. And when you look at this as a potential coach, I think if you're an offensive-minded head coach, you have to love the potential of Kyler Murray at 25 years old, with the arm talent, with the mobility, with all the things he can do. He's a unicorn at the position. And I think you want that. You want your hands on that type of player, and you think, hey, I can get this guy straightened out, and we could do some special things together.
So that sounds like somebody with a healthy ego, and it reminds me of Coach Sean Payton going and saying, Jameis is my guy.
Yeah.
Coach Sean Payton said, you know what? #1 overall pick. He can throw for 5,000 yards, and I bet you I can curtail those interceptions. Like he saw, you fall in love with the talent and the potential of what you see in a quarterback, and can you make him your franchise guy? And towards the end of Jameis being healthy, when he was on the field with Sean Payton calling the shots there, he looked better, didn't he? So like there's an ego that it takes to say, oh, I can get the best out of Kyler. It was Kliff Kingsbury's problem. He couldn't, he was a two-player friendly coach. He had Patrick Mahomes in college. We're seeing those takes out of the woodwork. He couldn't win with Patrick Mahomes, blah, 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 all of that. And you look at it objectively, there are concerns here. Kyler had his worst year, objectively. Worst winning percentage, yards per game, worst passer rating of his career. When you bring up the concern of the ACL tear, long term, I asked you before the show, like, who are quarterbacks that have come off an ACL tear that are defined, right? Like, your first answer was Tom Brady. Well, obviously, he plays a little bit differently than Tom Brady, but or Joe Burrow. But you look at it from the mobility standpoint with what we're seeing with medicine and everything going on today. You see what Saquon's doing this year, coming off an injury like that. We've seen runners in the past like Jamal Charles, Adrian Peterson. They bounce back immediately. So I'm not really worried about the ACL as much. I am worried about what you've heard all year and what we know, Hamilton, about Kyler Murray. Like I defended him a lot because I also fell in love with the talent. But he's out there and he's arguing with his best wide receiver, who's got questions as well. But Hammy, what do you make of that? Because it's not just physical. It's not just what he can do on the field. It's, can somebody get through to this quarterback? Can someone, say to him, take my calls? And it becomes a question of, was the play calling awful? And so Kyler was like, I need to step up and do what I want to do. Or is Kyler just like, I'm awesome and I'm going to do what I want and you have to follow my lead out there and I'm just going to free ball it the whole time? Is free ball appropriate? I'm sorry.
I think freelance would be more appropriate, but no, I think you hit it right on the head.
Continue.
Okay. I think that's the biggest concern that any potential head coach has here is, and I think that's where you have to kind of do your homework and talk to people in that organization and get a feel for what was going on with Kyler Murray and where that issue might lie. Because as we said, the talent's tremendous, but there's clearly something that wasn't working there. And I think the removal of the independent study clause, I know it drew so much backlash, and it's, but you're handing over that type of money. He's the third highest paid quarterback in the NFL. To put that in, if you do still have reservations, I think it was something, if Kyler agreed to it, I think it was fair to put that in and to hold some type of accountability. And the fact that that was in there to begin with tells me that there were things that Kyler was not doing that the organization felt he needed to do. It's
super sus. Who's going to find that attractive over a job that might not even be open yet, a team that's going to the playoffs and maybe one or done? I think there's two teams that I can think of right now that if they're one and done in the playoffs, wild card weekend, those head coaches might be moved because those teams are ready to go. And, you can say a coach, and I'll name them even, like a McCarthy or a Brandon Staley, like, you got us here, you got us to the playoffs with so much adversity, but if they're bounced in the first round, there has to be a thought of, yes, I love this person I'm dating my senior year of college, and they carry my books to my class, and they did such a great job, and they stuck with me when I was, going through puberty and all of that. But when it comes to who I'm going to the prom with, if the hottest guy in school is going going to ask me on the date, like, I'm going to say yes. Like, if the quarterback for the football team is going to come and say, like, come to the prom. So if you have like a Sean Payton or a Jim Harbaugh swoop in, that's a conversation that these front offices have to have. But it also comes with trading picks, and it also comes with writing really hefty checks to those potential quarterbacks or potential coaches for those attractive quarterbacks that are in the playoffs.